Hey, it's the Love in Your Wake podcast, and we're so glad that you've joined us today, together with Ben Teefy, and a special treat with the very wonderful, the very excellent, the very patient and enduring Danni and Bethany. We're diving into theology to talk real life and learn how we, like Jesus, can live love in our wake. I'm Bethany Thompson. Let's go.
Hey, a nice fade there. Danielle is so patient and enduring and all of those things. I was talking to a friend.
I planned that this morning.
It doesn't take... That is so funny. And it's all true. It's all true.
Yeah, because
I was
she
talking
lives
to
with
a
you,
friend the
Ben.
other night. Yeah. I was talking to a friend on, what's today? Friday? Wednesday night on the phone. And he was saying, he goes, you know, what's funny is that in a relationship, usually like you both have like the mongrel and the kindness. You know, you both have a bit of each, and it spreads out over the relationship. But in your relationship, like Danielle's got all the kindness and you're all the mongrel. And I was like, yeah, that's right. And yet the universe still averages out in a good. It still works.
Welcome, Danni.
That's part of the reason that she's our special guest today on the podcast, because she actually has something to say about these things.
We'll see.
We're glad you're here. We're very glad you're here. And we do think that you're amazing. We really do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Really
to be
do.
here.
You've got highly questionable taste in men, but other than that,
I don't know. It's worked out so far.
Well, friends, we've been talking about how we grow, and today we're going to talk about notch it up a little bit and talk about how do I go next level in life. And so if you've been tuning in, we have been processing things about personal growth, and so we're going to keep that going, but we're going to just notch it up a bit more. And so strap on your seat belts, because I do feel like this is going to be a fantastic 2-week combo. How do I go next level in life? And maybe you're sitting on something that you really want to grow through, you really want to extend into, you really want to expand, or whatever it is, in what area that you want to go next level, then tune in, stay with us. We're going to break down some of those things. Aren't we, folks?
Good question. Good question. How do I go next level in life? I reckon let's just say this. In multiple different ways, it might not be the way people always phrase the question, but that's probably the most asked question I've ever had as a leader or mentor or whatever, someone who works with people. People want to go to the next level. They know I've got to grow, or they know, oh man, I can't stay the same as I was. I'm in a rut, you know, all these things, I'm stagnating or whatever. And whatever it is, they know that there's growth ahead for them. And it's like, well, how am I going to do that? You know, that's where people do need... They need a helping hand, so to speak. So, yeah.
True.
And I don't think the levels look the same for everybody. This is why it's mysterious, right? If life was one size fits all, how good and how easy and wonderful would that be? But it is not one size fits all. So there's 3 of us around this table. For each one of us 3, going next level in our life looks substantially different, doesn't it? Like, what would it take for Bethany to go to her next level?
Yeah.
Well, what does that next level look like? What would it be? What domain of life is required? You know, same with you, Dan. I actually have a list of how you could go next level. And it started off pretty well, because while I was setting up the tech for this podcast, Danielle, she made me a cup of coffee. So that was very level of you, Danielle. Thank you. Yeah,
it's very true, because also, if you don't know us, we're actually 3 very different people.
Yes.
Though there's some similarities, we also have very different giftings, different roles in life, and so there is such a difference with people, isn't it? And it does make a difference to your season and how you're choosing to grow in that time. Yeah.
And I think comparison is a problem in this space, you know, so thinking
so
that we've all got to be the same, or that we all have to grow in the same thing or the same way, or that exactly the same dynamics are at play in each of our worlds. You know, I was talking to, again, this person who insulted my marriage the other night. I was talking to him, and we were discussing how comparison is a big problem, because for Danielle and I, we're in a stage of life where we now have young adult children who barely need us, right? I just need to slide a pizza under their door and change the paper in the bottom of their cage every now and then, and they're good. But in reality, so our life is a little bit freer, because we now have a decision-making matrix, which this year is the first time we've gotten to do it this way. That is, we can do things without going, but how's Lil going to get to school, or this or that? You know, that they don't quite require us. They still love us. We spend time together, but our decisions no longer have to factor in. We have dependent children. So we're planning our mid-year August month, and that is footloose and fancy-free without concern for our children, right? So then we can do things. Danielle she can do some extra initiatives and this sort of stuff. But then if somebody has primary school-age children, so this is what came up with the friend, he's like, oh, man, you're doing this, you're doing that, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but I have not got dependent children.
Yes.
So
Different
not.
season.
I don't have to be home at witching hour at 6 p.m. to help with the baths, the bed, the feeding routine, the exorcisms, all that stuff that you have when you have smaller children. So it's like, you can't compare what we could do this year in our life in a different season.
Yeah.
10 years ago, when our children were much smaller, we couldn't compare the same. It's not apples for apples comparing. Oh, how come they can do that, and that? But why aren't I doing that? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because you've got 7-year-olds, So
The
it's
other thing
individual.
I've noticed too with comparison is a lot of people compare age to age.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you can't do that because it's more like season. Like everyone's season and age is very different, and so it could be, seasons change on like when we met the Lord, when we came in contact with certain people that then caused that particular area of growth to grow.
Yep.
Even like I got married a bit later, so there's things that are that are just completely different to some of my peers. So I just feel like even that, and I've noticed that even in ministry sometimes people can look to the left and right of them and think I should be there, and it's like no, you should be right where God's got you. Like should be finding that lane and then going next level in that space. And I think you're so right. Comparison can really be a bit of a killer.
Yeah. But benchmarking's good, comparison's bad. Benchmarking is, if I was living my best life, what would I be going after? What would I be arranging? How would I be stewarding it, right? And then coming up with some benchmarks. Well, it would look like this. It would look like this. It would look like this. What type of marriage would I have? What type of parent would I be? What am I bringing to my career? All these things, right?
Yes.
How am I developing and growing? So benchmarking is good, but other people shouldn't be your benchmark because you either make an upward or a downward comparison. So you find someone doing better than you in a certain area and you compare upwardly, an upward comparison, and that's problematic. All that does is make you feel guilt and shame and condemnation. And a downward one makes you feel smug and superior. It's like you find someone with a bombier car than you and like, oh yeah, look, but so that's not growing your life, and you're certainly not going next level. What do you think, Daniela?
Yeah.
Good. So we'll move on.
But what do you think, like Dan, if you're in your season, where do you feel like even women tend to compare themselves the most?
Oh, wow. We compare how we look to one another.
Yeah.
We might compare our children.
Yeah.
We might compare what we're doing, like work-wise. There's so many areas.
Which is a good flag, isn't it? Because we've got many listeners, and I feel like they're also areas that you might want to go next level, but the comparison isn't helping.
No.
Is it? I feel like it just makes people get more down on themselves,
Yes,
whether it's women, whether it's people in ministry, whether it's mums, whether it's dads, whatever it is. I just feel like the comparison, what do they say? Like it steals joy.
Yes,
That's kind of that common thing, and I feel like it just
joy.
grinds you into the ground instead of actually helping you go next level.
Yeah.
That's right. And so when we choose a wise mentor, we don't compare ourselves to that person. What we do is we look at good qualities that they have, that they are succeeding in or flourishing in, and we say, I'm going to ask that person if they can help me to also work on the same quality. So that is a little bit different from comparison,
Yes. But that's a bit like a benchmark. Hey, I want to be like you. I'm going to set my life up to follow some of those footsteps. I think that's very different. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah,
that's right. So first sort of, I guess, take-home idea, if you're, listening to this and thinking, what am I making sense of it all, and I'm asking myself that same question, is that, okay, to answer the question, how do I go next level in my life? Every single one of us has a next level to go to. We should be aspiring to keep growing, keep developing, keep improving. There's all sorts of better versions of us out there that God had in mind when he made us and called us. So then I've got to answer the question, how do I go next level in life? It's not a good idea just to compare myself to others and let that answer come up that way. It's a highly individualized process, and it's born of reflection, prayer, meditation, things we've talked about over the last few weeks on this podcast, right? There are barriers to getting that answer. How do I grow? How do I get next level? So I think the first concerted effort is giving it some clear meditation, prayerfulness, thought, and maybe collaboration. It comes up in our marriage. There's often collaboration about how we're growing and what we're working on, and AKA argumentation and friction. But I think...
need to mediate.
That's right. So we're glad you're here to do our mediation today, Bethany. But I think but some people, they're distracted, they're busy, they're discouraged or whatever, and so they aren't giving concerted effort to, well, what does next level look for me in my life? Let's think about that. So that's the first one. It's highly individualized. You've got to come up with a good enough answer that matches where you're at in life, Yeah. And then maybe something else for us to think about is you can frame certain questions like, number one, well, do I have a hurdle to overcome? If I've got some hurdles to overcome, some barriers to overcome, what are they? That could be a way of going next level.
It's something that then pops in my head, right? Because as you said that, I'm just seeing like kids run a race in hurdles. And then there's many hurdles on those tracks. But also people can feel like there's many hurdles, but really there's no point in focusing on all of them.
No.
And so that is a good thought of like, if you've got a hurdle or a challenge, what is that one thing that you're wanting to grow into? Because if you take them all, try and jump all those hurdles in a one.
No.
If you stack all 5 up hurdles and try and jump them, that's
All at
impossible.
once,
Yeah.
And so it's really like, let's get the hang of jumping over one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, the idea of, I guess, being mindful of, but what's my next hurdle? What's my next priority? What's the one right in front of me now? And then since we're doing a athletics metaphor, I was having a conversation the other day with a sports performance coach, and he was saying that the number one biggest problem for athletes is that when they're doing their athletic performance, like it's an actual competition or a game or whatever, right, a grand final, the number one problem that makes them fail is if they're too mindful of all of the things they need to work on in their game. Like, so you do all that in training, you do all of that in preparation
like
on the field.
how weak you are, how problematic. Yes, sure.
So it's like, okay, I'm a pro golfer, and my last coaching session, we watched back the video, and I had 7 things to work on, and now I'm in the last hole of the PGA or whatever.
Yes,
I don't know about golf, so now I'm making a dog's breakfast of this illustration. But now if you're there and you've got one more putt to do, and you're in your head working on all those 7 things at that time, sweating, oh man, make sure you do that, you are going to fail because that's not the time. So just, you do have to work on it, but you work on it in training, but then you focus on the next thing in front of you on that day. So focus not on all your problems when you're making that putt. Focus on that hole, focus on that, let your training kick in, and just focus on that one thing, not, oh man, I've got to do this. So sort of like, what's the hurdle in front of you? Maybe that's a good question for some people to think of.
And even as they're listening right now, like, what is that one thing? Like, because we're going to keep opening this conversation. I feel like we got some tips for you right now, so I don't feel like we're going to leave you here. But as we continue to talk, what is that one thing that you're going to be thinking about as we go through this? Because we'd hate to get to the end of the podcast and everyone's like, oh, it's been nice.
Yeah, that's
Dust
right.
off your hands. Don't do anything about it. So if you've got that one thing in your head, you can start thinking as we're chatting about this today about what that thing is. It reminds me of once you got that one thing, and we talked about this in previous podcasts, but a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And so if you take that thought, okay, we've got our one thing. What's that first thing we've got to do? What's that plan?
Yes. So let's phrase the question slightly differently. What if you don't have a hurdle, but maybe you have to get through a wall? In my view, they're the same, but it's just it helps them mentally. Some people, well, I don't have any hurdles. Okay, do you have a big wall in front of you?
Yes.
And maybe you don't have a hurdle or a wall because you've been working on it, or you have a fortunate existence. What about this one? You lack an opportunity that you'd really love to have. I want a better job. I want a partner.
Yes.
I want a better partner. I've displayed terrible. Let's.
You want a better
Danielle can't be. Let me finish the sentence. I'm theorising on behalf of someone else. I want a better partner. I've had a terrible relationship history. I'm currently single again. And what am I going to do next time to stop history repeating itself? Yeah.
Sorry, we need a camera today.
You should have seen the 2 faces drop. 2 women in the
What is
podcast ready
happening?
to stab my face off as I aired my relationship grievances publicly.
No, that is a very good point. That is a really great point, especially because if you've had some history, you actually don't want it to repeat itself.
And it does without intervention. Yeah,
that's right. And whether it is relationships or whether it is at work and you think, oh, I'll just keep looping this. I want this next promotion. I keep getting passed over. There's got to be something that can take you next level. It's a very good point.
Yeah. So opportunity, what opportunities do I want? My life has a few people in it that I regularly meet with that the substance of our discussions is permutation and strategy around the type of opportunities they would love to have. And, there's a lot of grief and frustration in that opportunity window. I wish this door would open. Oh, man, and so it's like, well, in the sovereignty of God, you can't really control whether a door opens for you or not.
No.
But you
we
can
all wish
control.
we could.
Yes, you could. And I mean, and there is that sort of motivational pop culture. No, well, you don't wait for the door to open. You kick it down type of thing. But, well, good luck in the coalface of life.
Yeah.
Not everybody can kick down a door.
No.
You can't make certain things happen. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can make sure that you've grown and are presenting an adequate level of preparation for that door should it open, right?
I must say,
I'm
even if you
looking,
do
I'm
try and kick it down, sometimes that goes
counterproductive.
adversely against you.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
got to be quite wise. But yes,
What comes to mind is, but you can position yourself.
Yes, that's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
so many people that I've had experience with, they've wanted to do this. I guess is involved in church life though. They've wanted to do something, but they've volunteered out of the goodness of their heart. They've put themselves in that environment.
yes,
And when jobs have become available,
yeah,
they're positioned.
they're there, ready to go. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
That's a
think
great
in terms of ministry calling, this is something we have a long history
Frame of reference,
working
yeah.
with people
Yeah,
in, so
yeah.
it's an obvious one. But I think it's such a transferable observation. It's like, well, you can position yourself for it. If you want, anyone listening to this could have a better job. You just have to position yourself to do it. There's a great book by Cal Newport on career progression and success in life, and it's called it's called So Good They Can't Ignore You, and it's about like basically that's the key to career success. Just be better than everyone else. Grow, put in more effort, be noticeable. So everybody could do that, which makes them promotable. It gives them more power to negotiate for a pay rise. These things are very practical. It's all in that book, actually. It's like, oh, you want a pay rise? Well, if you're the most value-adding employee to the company and you do that for a year and you track it, then you go to your boss and negotiate, for a pay rise. Except Bethany, but everyone else could do that. So.
I'm not good enough, guys. I'm not good enough.
No, you are.
You are.
No, it's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. So I want to create opportunity. And so maybe you don't have a hurdle, maybe you don't have a wall, but maybe you want a doorway to open. So your next level is, how do I grow to position myself for that doorway? How do I knock on the door? How do I find the doors? How do I get in the hallway? Okay, fair enough. And here's the last sort of image I've been thinking about. It was like, well, maybe I need to drop some baggage. Maybe it's not a hurdle or a
I
wall
like that.
or an opportunity. It's I'm carrying something
is a
and
great point.
maybe I need to drop it, And here's the thing that makes the baggage thing such a great
so many
metaphor.
things. Yeah, great.
Is number one, when I was in high school, right, I actually deformed my spine by carrying my school bag on my left shoulder all the time. I would walk a couple of Ks to the bus stop.
Yep.
And I would walk a couple of Ks from the bus stop to school and vice versa every day of the week. And I hated going to my locker because I get bullied in school, right? It's hardly a surprise to anyone knows me that I would have been bullied. So I kept all my school bags and stuff in my school bag, right? So I had a very heavy school bag with everything in it because I never wanted to have to go to my locker. And therefore, I ended up with shoulders that were like a couple of degrees out because of that, because the baggage that I carried changed the way I walked and then changed. And then to undo that is still a factor of ongoing,
Can I make just
issues.
a tiny observation about
Yes.
that? I can think about this many a times in my own work life, but think about the days you come in with personal bags. It's an average day. It's a Thursday. You come in at 9 o'clock or 10 to 9 or whatever, and you're just feeling a bit low because you're thinking about the night before, whatever happened at home with the kids or whatever, and you're just feeling a bit low and you don't shake it off. How different is your day? Right? How different. And how different it is on another Thursday where the same thing happens, but you shake it off and you go, we're here for it, and you bring your whole self. That is what life requires, is more of that, not the other one. But some people live it like they never shake it off, and then they wonder why they can't go next level. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they go, opportunities pass me by. I'm like, yeah, because you're literally carrying. I can see it all over. And it's such a skill. You know?
It is.
Yeah,
and
it's making my brain go everywhere.
Skills there.
So
there's
amazing.
the short-term one, which is like recovering from something that's happened this week or something last week. I mean, we could come in and be all woe is me because diesel is now over $3 a litre, right?
Man, I'm carrying baggage.
You and I both have a diesel vehicle.
Man.
And when I say I mean Danielle, because she's the trucking queen.
I got fuel this morning and the pump, I couldn't get it out of my...
It was like, I'm here to stay.
Stuck in there. I called 2 guys over and he's wiggling out for a good couple of minutes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is so odd. I've never heard that.
I think I just pushed it in too hard. I don't know.
right.
Anyway, the
so
wire
funny.
coil. But yes, we
It's
can
just
have
that
baggage.
level of aggression. $3. But so there's short term. I'm carrying something short term because of a relatively recent or short term issue. Okay, so that's like the shake it off. Okay, I've got a phase switch. I've got to work out. That was then. This is now. I can't let that carry into this. And I think we've all got that.
Yeah.
I say to our kids all the time, or someone. I say everything to everyone all the time. But it's funny when in my weekly life, I go through 5 random scenarios in a day, and one will be like, births, deaths, marriages, marriage
Yes.
breakdown, complaints, deep conflict, somebody that's just doing something terrible, so I have to learn how to phase switch well
great
without carrying over into the next discussion what just happened in the previous discussion, and so that's a fitness I'm always trying to work on.
It's even a great thing that could be someone that's listening, their next point to go to next level.
Yes. That's
the
right.
phase switch.
Can you phase switch,
Yeah.
because it's sort of, and then when you can't do that, right, we don't know we can't do it, but others know we're not good at it, right?
Yeah.
Because we all carry an atmosphere with us to every next thing that we go to, right?
Yeah.
And it just comes out of our pores, it emanates out of our responses. So, I think if I get home and I've had a really bad day or whatever, and Daniel's like, "How was your day, babe?" And
I normally know straight away.
She meets me with my pipe and slippers, and then and I'm like, "Oh man, today, blah 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 blah." Okay, so in the context of our intimate relationship, I can vent to her and all that sort of stuff, but it's not always like that. As she said, she can tell straight away. Tell us how you can tell straight away, Daniel.
I think it's just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's your tone, it's your facial expression. It's just an instant. It's just obvious, After living with you for a long, long time, I can recognise it.
She can.
And people often bring that sense, what is kind of like your home person in some ways, to work.
Yes.
And it's like, but if you want to go to the next level, at some point you've got to kind of go, all right, that's happened at home. I'm drawing a line.
They bring it socially.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it's
so
like,
true.
There are people I know who, again, it's like they're seeking assistance for it, but the difficult feedback they have to embrace is, you pretty much are creating a loneliness dynamic in your life because you're a difficult person for others to be around, and they don't want to. There's not an easy way. There has to be a loving, gracious way to help people with that.
You trying to tell me something?
No. Danielle, no one's going to say that about you. I got a phone call of complaint about Danielle this week from somebody who accesses one of our community services arms.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Telling me that the lady that runs the community services arm was abusing her power, right? Anyway, it turns out that it's Danielle they're talking about because Danielle was being hostile to them. Anyway.
Danielle.
Yeah.
Do we know
That's exactly
that's
what
kindness and that's mongrel on this side?
Yeah, that's right. So you've got us mixed up, but I don't think I have a ponytail.
Do you know what though? What's happening right now is Danielle has been able to go develop a consistency in her life and live that out. That's taken her life next level. That then now we're getting a complaint that we're going, that's impossible.
Exactly, and that's what I said to that individual. I said to him. But for starters, I was already aware of the situation because obviously our church has internal reporting mechanisms, right?
Sure.
So I know that over the course of community services, we have banned 1 or 2 people on a temporary basis, right?
Yep.
So somebody will behave badly, get a
Behavioural
warning,
standards,
get a second warning, and if they can't do it, they get banned for 4 weeks. And then when they come back, if they haven't reset the clocks and they can't abide by the required behavioural standards, they're not welcome back.
Come on.
So we do have standards, right? We're not just here to be treated any old. You can't come and yell at us and swear at people and swear at others and make them uncomfortable on our site when we're providing a community care service. So this individual's been banned for 4 weeks after a couple of warnings and been involved in some controversies. And they took the view that they'd been banned because Danielle's hostile and it's not fair, So I was able to have a conversation with them about like, oh, look, mate, we've got standards. And for starters, I'm not saying Danielle's incapable of hostility, right? But she deals with hundreds and hundreds of people across a year. And so for one person in 3 years and hundreds of people to experience, oh, she's just hostile, that is an entirely remarkable thing that we know on balance is unrealistic about Danielle. It's just unrealistic because she carries a certain atmosphere.
That's right. And if there was, it's like, I think we haven't done our investigation.
Yeah, that's right.
I was even listening to a radio report this week about how when kids are in the schoolyard and something happens and then it was with the school principal and how then the kid comes home with a distorted view and then it's really like, well, you might need to, instead of, blasting a teacher, maybe just ask another question.
Go and get some, it's
That's
like
right.
information before accusation. Let me get all the information here. So fortunately on this scenario, I had the information about the warnings, about the incident that occurred, about a person being banned from the site. And anyway, so by the time I'm having a discussion with them, I was able to help them see the thing is you're carrying a specific atmosphere when you come here and you're now leaching that atmosphere to everybody else. So you're yelling at people, you're swearing at people, total strangers are turning up, and you're taking it upon yourself to yell at them and insult them and, develop some idea that they've done the wrong thing and now you're the one yelling at them, but you're a guest participating in our services like they are. So it's actually not your job to be yelling and swearing at other people on our behalf or yelling and swearing at Danny.
Right.
And if you get banned for 4 weeks, you got off pretty easy. So, So anyway, what it comes down to is the conversation I had with this person was difficult because they find it hard to embrace that they have to change. They want the answer to be, Danielle can't ban me for 4 weeks, right? And it's like, well, she can, and that's a legitimate use of her power, not an abuse of her power. And you come back in 4 weeks. So I'd take this 4 weeks to reflect on your behavior and work out what am I bringing when I come back. Or you might end up being banned again because even when I'm having the discussion with them, they're like yelling and swearing on the phone. I'm like, see, this is the type of thing we're talking about. Like, we don't really do this, So it's like you're carrying an atmosphere. You brought it here. It's now got consequences for your life. And, so this is now a metaphorical story that we're all capable of. We carry an atmosphere and,
it's
we're
true.
carrying it. It affects the way we walk.
But it's true, though, because, we got many stories, and I'm sure our listeners have many stories, but, I've been guilty of bringing the wrong atmosphere. And I'm like, Bethany,
we all
pull
have.
yourself
Yeah.
together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, pull yourself together. But also, I can tell when I have acted in those disciplines, the difference that it makes too. And so it's just really interesting. But we've got to ask ourselves, how do I go next level? And maybe that's one of the things is do you carry a good atmosphere?
Yep.
Can you phase switch?
Yep.
Because I think those are very key points, particularly in the workplace.
Yes. So no one needs to beat themselves up. Maybe you're listening to this going, oh, man, I could work on that. I think we can all work on it.
100%.
So the thing is, okay, well, how am I going to do it? Because going next level requires me to identify, okay, which hurdle, what hurdle, is there a hurdle, which wall, which doorway, which opportunity, what baggage, what issue am I carrying?
Great.
Okay, good. So then I've identified something off that list that I've got to, I would go next level if I deal with that. I'd go next level if I even started dealing with that. Okay, so how am I going to do it? Well, there are 4 things you need to have working in concert together if you want to address an issue in your life. 4 things. It's 4 work groups. Okay?
Yep.
So let's talk about work group number 1 briefly because we'll pick it up maybe in later episodes. And there's also people are well capable of filling in the blanks for themselves on this, I reckon. The first one is you need a change or growth framework. So framework is the first one, right? You need a framework.
So we're talking practicalities there. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, we're talking a system, right?
Yep.
So I identify, let's say, if I want to grow in anything, I have to learn how would I benchmark what that growth looks like? What are the appropriate steps? Who's going to help me? All these things. So I need a framework. If I want to learn golf, you learn golf. You learn how to hold a club. You learn how to swing it. You learn how to put your feet, hold your body, which way to hold. So there's a framework. There is a, let's say it this way, even though not everyone's going to go out and do a course, but there's a curriculum, there's a body of knowledge. If you want to improve in this area, this is what you need to know, and then this is what you need to do. So I need a framework. A lot of people don't have a framework, so they think, oh man, I've just got to grow in this, and then they go and they have the same poor me conversation with 17 of their friends, and then they wonder why nothing ever changes. I'll tell you why, because you don't have a framework. You have to have a system, an appropriate framework. What steps would I take to change? What do I need to know? And so I'll give you an example. For change, for a person to experience lasting change is really a tough thing other than biological change, which happens without your input, right? But trait change and personality change and changes of the way we conduct ourselves in life, we fail at that more often than we succeed at that as adults, basically, right? Because as time goes on, we get more and more comfortable and our reasons and motivations to change reduce, right? Question, if you're an adult, when was the last time you were truly, truly, truly out of your comfort zone? It doesn't happen that often to adults, especially adults in middle age, right? Well, you're not middle age, but we are. So Dan's a senior, I'm a middle. But in reality, when you're a teenager and a young adult or a kid, you're out of your comfort zone all the time. School PE makes you learn a new sport. Oh, no, I had to put shorts on. Oh, man, I've got to rock up to school. That's out of my comfort zone. I'm getting kids yelling at me in the playground. I've got siblings, so you're changing all the time because the motivation is high. I need to learn. I want to pass. I want to fit in. Oh, I'm going to have the first day of school, the first day of my job, the first day of uni. So you're outside of your comfort zone all the time, right? And life makes children do that. That's why we've got a system in our culture for developing children into adults, right? Good or bad. So they have a system, but the older you go as an adult, no one makes you do anything.
No.
So you're not part of a system that delivers it to you. So you can get very comfortable, and you can even not change. You know, we know people who haven't changed in 30 years. You know, so most change fails or doesn't happen as an adult with volition. It's very difficult, and there's reasons why attempts at change fail, and more attempts at change fail than succeed. Here's why: because people don't have a framework. So
Yeah.
real quick, because you don't need to know this, you can just listen to this podcast back a few times and then Google the substance of it. But there are steps to change that most people don't engage in. The first one, which people don't do, is pre-contemplation. That's why we're saying ask yourself the question, how do I go next level in life? What does next level look like? What do I have facing me? Because pre-contemplation is a proper, thoughtful insight into what the most appropriate area of change is. So you've really got to think about it before you decide. And before you do anything, there's some good contemplation
that's a good point.
required. Count the cost. So that's pre-contemplation, the lead up to thinking about changing, right?
Yeah.
Pre-contemplation, thinking about it before you even think about it. The second one is contemplation. Okay, now I've narrowed down. I want to go next level in life. What hurdle, what wall,
Great.
what doorway, what baggage. Okay, the pre-contemplation, I've narrowed it down to this one. Now I'm contemplating that one. I'm thinking deeply about the cost of that change, the cost of not doing that change. What forces in my life stop that change from happening? They're called minimizing forces. What forces in my life would help that happen? They're called maximizing forces. You know, what makes it more likely and what makes it less likely? That's contemplate, thinking about everything. You know, Jesus said, you don't build a tower without counting the cost. So pre-contemplation, then contemplation. Then there's preparation. Okay, I'm getting ready to change. There's a system for that. Then there's action. Ooh, I'm embodying the change. I'm doing something about it. Then there's maintenance. I'm not just doing it this week. I'm going to do it for a while and work on it for a while. There's a system. It's calendared in. I've got a framework for it. And then there's termination. That change has actually achieved the benchmarks that in my pre-contemplation and contemplation phase I came up with, and my action has resulted, my preparation, my action has resulted in that change. And now that change is embedded and reliable enough. Now I can terminate, which means I move on to focusing on something new because that has embedded itself, you know?
Yeah.
So athletes, addicts, someone who goes to counselling, all of that is the framework through which your counsellor goes, good, this concludes our partnership together now, at least on that issue.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So,
Great point. Yep.
So that's, for example, 6 steps to real change, which is why New Year's resolutions never work.
Because they're snaps.
Because on the 30th of December, everybody's making a snap. There's been no pre-contemplation, no preparation. There will not be any action other than the gym membership that got bought that week and then isn't being used by March. And then, you know, no action, no maintenance, and termination happens through euthanasia. You just kill it off after you decide that you've been paying for that membership you're not using, so you don't do it anymore. You know, anyway, so lack of a framework. So you need a framework. Step 1, question, what's your framework?
Yep. It's good.
Yeah.
Do you recommend like people writing it down
Yes.
in each of those stages, or more like what works for them? But I do think like even I was listening to something the other day. Who was that? Maybe it was Isaac and the other. But just even putting it up all around you as well. But I was just thinking more just the plan itself, like kind of smart to be like, this is what I've thought about. This is what I'm going to do. Because I think when you're talking before about the different seasons in life, I was thinking about how much you need to think about how much skill, time, energy, resource you have, because it is different when you've got heaps of time versus no time.
Yep.
So when in your contemplation preparation, you can think, okay, do I even have the money for a gym membership? No, because it's going on fuel. But do I even have but do I have the time?
But then you make up for it by trying to get the nozzle out of your tank. So you're just doing a few reps that way.
But like, do I have the time? Because if I do want to be present with my family, okay, I've got from 8 o'clock, not from, 6 o'clock or whatever those things are. And so that's why I think writing it down is actually probably another step of like, this part of my preparation, I'm going to be more considered and intentional about this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to summarise, what I'm hearing you're saying, if you want to change, you really have to give it some intentional focus.
Yeah, that's right. And not just focus, oh man, I'm so aware I've got this problem. You know, some people just sit and talking about
like
their
the
problems
negative
all the
side
time,
of
right?
it,
It's like, but ruminating in the problem, it is a necessary part of pre-contemplation and contemplation. You know, one thing I always say to people, you've got to sit in and taste the pain. You've got to taste how bad this is.
That's a really good point.
You've got to be a bit miserable about this problem, because you've got to work out, man, I hate this
really
dynamic.
want to change.
I want out, you know. The guy who discipled Danielle and I when we were young used to always say, "I can't deliver you from your friend. You can't get set free. If you love Egypt, you can't leave." You know, so remember.
Yeah.
So, but it's true because you do have to feel the negative, but it's just that you can't only ever feel the negative. You've got to move on to preparation and action. So preparation is a good plan. Action is you do your plan. Maintenance is you do it long enough.
Motivator.
Yeah, pain can be a motivator. So some people avoid pain so much that they say, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not going to think about it, I'm not going to think about it." Well, you can't change if you won't think about it, mate, you know?
That's interesting because I was thinking recently just about this topic of change and growth and thinking how often we lose the long-term vision in our head because we want the short-term gain. So we want that instant gratification, whatever it is.
Yep.
And so then we lose the long-term. But if we've put intentional focus into it, like Dan's saying, and we've put the preparation and the contemplation into it, then it's like, hang on, I actually know what the long term is. I'm less likely to lose the long term for that instant. Does that make sense?
That's
It's not
right,
convenient right now. It's like, no, hang on. I actually don't want to be like that person that we thought about. Or I don't want to, as in not a person, but that whatever you've thought about in your contemplation stage. Yes. But I want to be like that. I want to be able to, play with my grandkids when I'm 60, 70, 80. Like, so what does that mean? I'm going for a walk today, whatever that, whatever it is. Yep. But it's like, we've got the long term in our head, but I just feel like we can give it up for the short term too often.
We do. And that's why, the contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance is so important. So it's like, well, I have a system. So if I have a system, now I know that system answers the question of what am I doing next, Okay, so...
What else do we need?
But here's the thing. You could have a good framework, but you still need 3 other things. Just having the good framework isn't enough, but your framework has to include the following, right? Point 2, you need teamwork. Teamwork. You need people in your corner. You need a community context that reinforces and supports your change. Now, this is a very important point here because, loneliness is a problem in our society. So many people don't have a sense of community anyway or friends. But also, a lot of people have friends, but those friends are not necessarily the ones who are your change team because your friends are as dumb as you are.
Yes,
right?
great.
So your friends might be... There might be all sorts of dynamics in your friendships. One of them being maybe you're not even honest with those people. Maybe maybe there's too much of a peer group norm where you all get together, you assume social roles, and you go along and get along well. Not saying it doesn't have value; it does have value, but they're your friends. But are those people supportive of your changes?
Yeah,
I've been a drinker who stops drinking, and some of your drinking buddies they don't like that.
No,
you're too good for them now. They think
yes, that's right.
Okay, they're not your change team.
Yep.
So there is a difference between just my pals and my change team. Now, my friends could be part of my change team, but guess what? I've got to recruit them. You need teamwork. So you have to have a community. Who is it that I'm talking to? Hey, I'm growing and changing in this, and I need you on my team to support and encourage, hold me accountable, nudge me, push me, motivate me, pump my tires back up, ask me about it, breathe down my neck. You need that. It's a whole mixture of that. Who's on your change team? So you need teamwork.
The other day we were talking with our location pastors, which are Pastor Jason and Pastor Alyssa, great pastors.
Shout out.
Yep. And we were just talking about change and accountability because we've been talking about that as a team and how it's an initiative, not just a response to something, and how it's people we've built trust with and so forth. And now I've lost my point. What was it? What were you saying?
Yep, that you need community context, relationships, accountability, nudging.
So we were talking about you can be accountable to your friends, but I said the way you know the difference is can and do your friends challenge you? Because if they don't, that's not teamwork. Like that's not on this team.
Yep.
Well, I think that if there's someone that you're having a chat with a friend and they go, Bethany, that's not really the right response to whatever situation it is. It's like, well, that person is helping you grow. But if they just listen and pat you on the back, that's just a friend,
Yeah, and God loved those people that do
they're
just
awesome.
But you know what the Bible says? An enemy's kisses, deceptive, but faithful are the wounds of a friend. Like your friends wound you from time to come on, buddy.
But that's the way to know the difference of like, okay, are they part of my teamwork or are they just part of my friendship?
Yep.
They're part of my teamwork when they can and they do challenge me and they make me feel uncomfortable at times.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, you're allowed to have friends that aren't on the team,
totally.
but don't make the mistake of thinking that just, if I had more friends, I'd have a team. Not really.
No.
Because, there are mentors, there are accountability partners, there are leaders, there are,
there's even
your
formal
counselors on your
avenues.
team.
Yeah,
that's right. Mentors, coaches.
People. Yep.
So you can't grow if your framework doesn't include teamwork. You've got to have people on your team. And Danielle, do you remember in your dietary consultant days, right, what we call someone, let's say I'm on a healthy eating
Oh, I
framework, right? And then someone in my house is always trying to make me eat chocolate.
Saboteur.
We call it a saboteur, right? That some people who are really, really close to you, they behave as saboteurs in your life. Explain.
What is a
I'm not saying
saboteur?
you have saboteur. I'm saying explain the concept of the
The
saboteur.
concept. Okay, so
I've decided I'm going to eat healthy.
yeah, so you want to eat healthy. Your mate who you've always eaten junk food with, you want to grow, you want to change, you want to get healthy. They don't want to, so they're not supporting you, but they're
Enabling them.
They're enabling
Wow.
you.
And they actively
sabotage.
undermine.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like, come on, mate, just
come
have one
on.
more chocolate, just take it,
It's not going to hurt you or what's,
Or they just come over with the beers and the chips for the movie night.
Yes,
Where
yes,
you said, "Man,
yes,
I
yes.
don't want it."
I'm not having that now. Yeah.
Yeah, so rather than being on the same page and supporting you, they're doing things that actively
a really great point.
undermine.
Do you know that's also a great point? Even with like you think about in a job, you want to get a promotion, you want to go next level, you want to change some things, but your colleagues, you always gossip, complain about your boss.
Sitting around at the water
Right?
cooler. You know?
Or you just fluff around on certain things and you know, so everyone else brings an atmosphere and you succumb to that atmosphere.
Yep.
It is like there's a lot of situations
They're
where
not
that
on your
saboteur
team.
can
They're
be
sabotaging.
present.
And the thing is, the saboteur, this is what Danielle used to say this all the time, and she would observe it all the time in our lives when I was being saboteur or other things, right? Because the saboteur is not malign. They're not negatively intentioned. They're unaware of their
It
behaviours.
just defaults. Just
come
their
on,
default.
mate.
Yeah.
Come on, just have one chocolate. What's wrong with one chocolate? What's wrong with one beer? Oh, just have another smoke, mate. What, you're too good for us now. You know, there's all sorts of ways. But it is also, I've made a determination to live this way. Oh, just skip it once, mate. Come on, it's a special occasion. There's all sorts of ways. They're not being nasty. They're unaware, but it's still sabotaging behaviour, right?
It is.
So you have to have a team that supports your change framework because your life will be full of unconscious saboteurs, you know? Okay, so you need teamwork.
Yeah, that's so good.
Number 3,
Yep.
you need inner work, which I guess in the change framework is really the action and contemplation side of it. Inner work is simply I've got to address my thinking, my feeling, my believing, and how the dynamics of my inner world create other patterns in my life. I've got to think about that. I've got to go deep. I've got to get in touch with what's going on, you know? So I've got to have some depth.
I've got someone in my life and we've been in a bit of a book club and they were just saying that some things that they want to go and they very much kind of have a framework where they go to Jesus on a lot of things. They've just got a personal relationships. They go to Jesus. We've got to change this. But there's been some things recently where then Jesus has gone, yep, you need to change this. And they've then actively, and a lot of it's got to do with their mind. And then they've received significant freedom as a result. And so they've built their framework. They've got their team, you know.
Yep.
But a lot of it has been, I've got to fix something in my
Yes,
brain
yes,
in
yes.
order to get to that place
so
I want to
true.
go. And it's just, they even said to God at one point, they were like, no, I don't have that problem.
Yep.
And he was like, yes, you do. And it was about their self-talk. Turns out they had some negative self-talk and they just didn't see it, but it was crucial
Yes.
in them going next level.
Yeah.
Like crucial.
Yeah. We're all blind to the
Yeah,
way
we
our
just
thinking,
so
feeling,
don't see
believing
it.
affects
Yep.
us. Yeah.
But it's so important. Mm.
And this is why you need a framework, because the framework will help you, will ask you questions and give you observations that you wouldn't get without a framework. Right? And part of that framework should be prayerfulness, right? Contemplation, meditation, prayerfulness, asking God, interfacing with Jesus about, okay, Lord, how do I need to grow here?
Yes.
Get an insight that you wouldn't have got before. Make it part of your framework. So inner work. And then the last one, your framework has to be outer work. Outer work. And outer work is simply outworking these things through action in my life, enshrining them in my schedule, enshrining them in my habits, doing the things that I'm committing to, taking the right steps. So
Yes.
you need outer work. So it's framework, teamwork, inner work, and outer work. There's no going next level without those 4 dynamics working together.
I was going to say,
in
you can't really
concert.
bypass one.
You cannot.
Oh, we'll just not do the inner work. It's like, it's not going to last.
And
You
we
don't
do-
take the
Yeah.
steps.
We do by nature like a good shortcut, but
Oh.
I don't think there's a shortcut.
I love a good short.
We all love a good
I
shortcut.
love
You should see the
convenience.
desktop on my computer. Well, actually, you know what's interesting? Your brain is wired to save energy. So we all love a
Yes,
shortcut.
yes.
We all love a shortcut. We take shortcuts all the time. There are 11 known. They're called cognitive distortions, thinking shortcuts that your brain does naturally. You never have to learn it. Your brain does it naturally. Every human has it in common. Cognitive distortions, we've actually done podcast episodes on this somewhere in the back catalogue, because your brain loves a good shortcut.
Yep.
So it loves to cut down, save energy, and just have a default setting.
Great
And
point.
you can't grow if shortcuts rule. So, yeah. There you go. We should probably wrap it up
Yeah.
here. It's time to land the bird. Danielle, thanks for joining us this week. We'll have to get you. You'll have to come back.
I like
Yeah,
the
I like it.
shortcuts with my words.
She likes to cut it short.
Well, we have been processing good stuff though. So framework, teamwork, inner work, outer work. Put it on paper. Maybe you're listening in the car when you get home, when you have your next time with your journal or whatever it is. Put it on paper and let's begin to take our lives to the next level. Well, thanks for stopping by. To stay connected with us, it's Encounter Church TV on YouTube and Encounter Church AU on Instagram. We're all about leading lives that leave love in our wake. So until next time, maybe we can find ways to do just that. Bye for now.
Adios. Bye.
Bye.